Welcome! This is MCG Tech with a budget gaming build under $20. I built this computer to highlight what can be done with $20 without depending on insane deals. Most of the component prices are not too far off what you can find on eBay. I also tried to use some tricks and basic mods to get the most out of my parts. With that in mind, this is what I managed to scrounge up. Starting with the base of this build, I picked up a Dell Optiplex 745. I was able to get this beast for a measly $1 because the owner said a rattling sound was coming from the inside. When I got home, I determined the issue was the 80GB hard drive. However, it was still being recognized, so I was content. The rest of the system specs include two 1GB sticks of DDR2 RAM, a 305W power supply, and a Core 2 Duo E6400. The computer was incredibly dirty, so I was eager to give it a good cleansing. For $1, I think the Optiplex serves as an ideal starting point. I decided to buy a Core 2 Duo E4500 mainly because it has an older manufacturing process than the E6400. This meant I could use some small portions of electrical tape to cover up two pins on the CPU, and allow the E4500 to reach a higher clock speed. For an extra $1, I decided the upgrade would be worth it to give the PC a little more power and to satisfy my curiosity. For my graphics card, I went with an MSI GTX 650. I bought this card for $15 to help this computer stand out in games. This model does have 1GB of GDDR5 RAM, which I consider decent when you take the price of the build into account. Even though the Optiplex case does not support dual slot cards, I can simply remove the bracket to get it inside. The final part of this build is a SATA to 6-pin adapter. Because of the fact the Dell PSU does not have a 6-pin connector, this adapter is necessary to power the GTX 650. For $1, these adapters have been real lifesavers. The total price of this build comes out to $18. I would have spent the final $2 on RAM, but I was worried the hard drive would fail and I would need to buy a replacement. With the system information out of the way, it is time for you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the build montage. With the build completed, I decided to run a combination of 2 synthetic benchmarks and 3 games. Starting with Cinebench, the Core 2 Duo E4500 scored 95 CB. Right off the bat, I can tell the CPU is really going to be holding back the GTX 650. I then ran the OpenGL test where the GTX 650 scored 29 FPS. Next, I ran the 3DMark CloudGate benchmark. This computer scored 4,383 overall, 15,709 for the graphics score, and 1,244 for the physics score. For my first game, I tested Csgo on the benchmark map at 480p, 720p, and 1080p. I forgot to capture the results on Fraps, but I did record the full benchmarks at each setting. By reviewing the footage, I was able to estimate the results. The full testing footage will be linked below if you are interested. Csgo ran decently at about 30 FPS, but the smoke grenades did cause FPS to tank. Warframe ran very well on this computer at 720p and 1080p. The CPU's limitation can be clearly seen in the 1 FPS disparity between both settings. Even though the FPS did dip at some points, the game still felt very fluid. This computer easily handled Quake 3 at 480p, 720p, and 1200p. Even at 1600 by 1200 resolution, the minimum FPS remained above 60. The consistency of FPS in this game was very high. In conclusion, this computer performed decently, but it definitely has some pitfalls. Specifically, the CPU and RAM are really holding this computer back. Honestly, if you have the money, I would recommend steering clear of LGA 775. Instead, I would recommend going for a Sandy Bridge system. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like this video and subscribe. Also, feel free to check out the rest of the content on this channel. Thank you for watching.